Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Ultrasonic Film. As always, I'm your host, James, talking about movies, and more movies. I have a very special guest on the show right now, Joseph Sims-Dennett. Joseph, welcome to Ultrasonic Film.
Thank you very much, James. Very happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. We're talking about your new creepy film, The Banished. Now, you are the writer, director, and producer of The Banished. I have to assume that this was a personal passion project for you. How long was the film inception? How long has it been since you've started?
Probably at least 10, 15 years. I started getting the idea for it like a very long time ago. And yeah, it was like lots of some Australian films like Goodbye Paradise and stuff that I was like, oh, that's like a really interesting concept of this sort of scary odyssey through the bush. And then, yeah, then we shot it a few years ago. It was certainly a passion project. It was just me and a few mates in the woods throwing a camera around. But yeah, we're happy that it's finally done and it's coming out.
Well, certainly, I got to say, the visual images in the film are certainly better than just you and a couple mates in the woods with a camera.
And it was very creepy. It was like we mostly filmed that up in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. This is like a couple hours out of Sydney. And it is genuinely quite creepy. There's just a lot of like abandoned settlements from when they first settled it, and it was all, mining. And you do kind of just wander through this endless bush and run into just some random like graveyard or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is a decent location for a horror film.
One thing I noticed as well, as far as chronological storytelling goes, you're very clever with the flashbacks telling the central character's story. I'm curious, was it always that way? You mentioned that you've been working on this project for years and years. Did you ever think of telling the story straight through, or did you feel that this was something that we're going to lead up to see where the central character's at?
Yeah, well, the fractured timeline. I did cut a version of. I've cut a million versions of the film actually, but I did cut a version that was just linear. It's just like a bit of an editing thing where you can get in and out of scenes a bit faster, and it just gives the film an interesting kind of momentum. It kind of puts you under its spell a bit more when it's sort of asking questions of the audience. And so, there was parts of it that were written with that fractured timeline, but we just sort of enhanced it a bit more through the editing process. And just with that shooting style, obviously we're sort of referencing a lot with Ben Wheatley and like Kill List films like that, where you can be that sort of loose kind of shooting style. You are able to kind of jump cut and be a bit more creative with the editing, just to give the film a style in how it's actually edited.
Who are some of your favorite directors and films that have inspired you to make this? Of course, we're talking to you in Australia right now. So are there some Australian films that really kind of captured your imagination?
The biggest one, like I always just say, that I reckon the greatest Australian film ever made is Wake in Fright.
That's quite a powerful cult film, Wake and Fright.
Yeah, and it really is like, yeah, I've sort of found myself in strange situations like that, like that when you're kind of wandering around regional Australia. Picnic at Hanging Rock, like it does seem to be kind of a theme of this sort of like unexplained kind of possession that comes over you when you're kind of in a bush a little bit too long, perhaps. It doesn't always happen. It's a very beautiful place, but we do tell lots of stories about the influence of just how vast and massive Outback Australia is, and how you're just completely alone. You can literally just be the only person from horizon to horizon quite easily.
I'm curious as well. Of course, we're talking to you in Canada right now. Were there any North American films that you've enjoyed from your youth that made you want to become a filmmaker? Anything comes to mind there?
Just so many movies. My favorite film director for real, not necessarily influencing this film, would be David Lean. I do love films like Bridge on the River Kwai, the movies that I loved when I was a kid. And that's why, like, the film that I made previously, Observance, was just set in an apartment. And so with this one, it's really similar themes, but I wanted to have this sort of odyssey aspect to it and this momentum to it of like someone going on like a long journey into the heart of darkness. And so I think, like, even just films like North American films, talking about like Apocalypse Now and Coppola, that was a massive influence too, particularly with that film in terms of how it captured a particular tone as well. But yeah, it is interesting kind of trying to think about like direct influences, because I was never really trying to. I think it was more so, and it happened with a lot of people, just the influence of Ben Wheatley and what he managed to achieve in that early part of his career, and particularly with Kill List as well, because it was just this sort of random masterpiece that popped up, and I think it was in 2011 when it came out. But that shooting style, that kind of Dogma 95, but slightly more refined, a couple generations later, that was massive for me because it made you go, oh, okay, you can tell these sorts of stories and you can do it in this really interesting way and you don't need millions of dollars.
I think we should absolutely give some credit to your leading actress in this film. Did you know immediately that she was going to be the one to do this? Because you definitely do hang a lot of the power and the drama of the film on her, and she does a great job.
Meg, yeah, she's dynamite. She was my friend. We actually worked together for a while, and so obviously you rewrite scripts 1,000 times before you end up pointing a camera at anyone. But yeah, with her, I kind of just asked her. I was like, "Would you be interested?" I asked her first before I went through and did a rewrite, and particularly with this kind of film, and with the character of Mr. Green is a really good friend of mine as well. It's Leighton Cardno. And yeah, I just asked them, I was like, look, would you like to be in this film? I don't have any money, but it'll be a good bit of fun going in and shooting it. And yeah, they just said, yeah. And so I just rewrote the script to suit them because you have to just shoot so quickly. Like the whole film was shot in 13 and a half days. You just sort of legging it the whole time. And you just need to have the characters as close to who the people that are playing them as possible. And obviously, yeah, it was great that they said yes. And yeah, Meg absolutely knocked it out of the park. She's just incredible. And yeah, the fact that she was able just to turn over those performances in scene after scene, it was just incredible. So we were just very blessed to have her.
Joseph Sims-Dennett, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us here on Ultrasonic Film to talk about your new film, The Banished. Again, a very creepy, horrific film that definitely gets inside your head.
Really appreciate it, James. Thanks again.